9. Giant mystery spider. In 2012, a mysterious population of giant hairy spiders terrorized residents in the remote village of Sadia in northeastern India. Experts were stumped by the spiders, which they speculated were a previously unknown species of tarantula. Bite symptoms were extremely unpleasant, and there were a lot of people getting bit. Local resident Jintu Gogoi told the Times of India that he experienced excruciating pain and nausea, and that his fingers swelled and turned black. Without knowing the species, it was impossible to treat bite victims with antivenom. Many people went to spiritual healers who tried to drain their wounds by cutting them open with razor blades. But this often led to infection, sending many to the hospital for antibiotics. Officials told residents to stay indoors when possible. An old man and a teenager died during the infestation. Researchers visited the village and were unable to determine whether the teenager was bitten at all. And they speculated that the elderly man may have died from a snake bite. 8. Komodo dragon. Measuring up to 10 feet, 3 meters long, and weighing as much as 300 pounds, 136 kilograms. Komodo dragons are the world's largest and heaviest lizards. They're one of the few venomous lizard species, and they've been around for millions of years. These ancient giants are only found on a handful of islands throughout Indonesia's lesser Sunda archipelago, which is why Western scientists didn't know about them until 1912. Local residents have long known about Komodo dragons, which are often seen miles from shore, swimming from one island to another in search of food. Equipped with an excellent sense of smell, they can detect their next meal from miles away. Komodo dragons often scavenge, but they're also known to hunt prey. They're capable of swallowing large chunks of meat quickly and with astonishing ease. Scientists long believed that the species' saliva contained harmful bacteria. It wasn't until 2009 that the biochemist Brian Fry discovered the creature's venom glands. The Komodo dragon's venom can cause an array of horrific side effects, including paralysis, heavy blood loss, tissue damage, and excruciating pain. Unlike some animals on today's list, the species is known to kill humans from time to time. Since 1975, there have been 5 recorded instances of Komodo dragons killing people. They also have a penchant for robbing human graves, which is why the locals who live among the giant reptiles pile rocks over their loved ones' burials. Komodo dragons are also willing to eat one another. To prevent this from happening, smaller specimens are known to roll around in feces to disguise their smell. 7. Goliath bird eater. The world's largest spider is an Amazon-dwelling member of the tarantula family that has been compared to the size of a dinner plate. Known as the Goliath bird eater, it has a body measuring up to 5.1 inches, 13 centimeters long, and has a leg span of up to 1 foot, 30 centimeters in diameter, along with a maximum weight of nearly a half pound, 227 grams. It ranks as the world's largest spider in terms of both body length and mass, and is second only to the giant huntsman spider when it comes to leg span. Despite its name, the Goliath bird eater rarely preys on birds, but it has been known to do so from time to time when the opportunity arises. It mostly feasts on worms, amphibians, and other spiders. When threatened, the species releases specialized hairs that are incredibly irritating to human skin. The spider also has fangs measuring between 0.79 and 1.57 inches, 2 to 4 centimeters long, which are capable of penetrating human skin. And while it's not in the Goliath bird eater's nature to act aggressively toward humans, they will bite when provoked. 6. Flying fox. In case you've never heard of them, flying foxes are in fact giant bats. There are around 65 species, most of which are found in mainland Asia and on tropical islands including Madagascar, Australia, and Indonesia. While their size varies between species, flying foxes include the world's largest bats, with some having wingspans of up to 5 feet, 1.5 meters across. along with a head and body length of up to 16 inches, 40 centimeters. Flying foxes are old-world fruit bats, which means that they navigate primarily by sight rather than echolocation, even though they're mostly nocturnal. Data shows that their populations are mostly declining. 15 species are classified as vulnerable, while 11 are considered endangered. The largest flying fox species is the golden-crowned flying fox. It's endemic to the Philippines and is known to travel in large colonies of up to 10,000 members. The largest recorded specimen had a wingspan of 5 feet 6 inches, 1.7 meters, and weighed approximately 2.6 pounds, 1.2 kilograms. Given their size, the thought of crossing paths with a flying fox is probably terrifying to most people, even though they tend to only eat fruit. And there is a chance of running into one in certain places. But you won't see them living in the wild in the US. Not only because parts of the country don't offer the right habitat, but also because they pose the potential to become a pest and to threaten endemic species. 5. Nile crocodile. The Nile crocodile is found in freshwater habitats in at least 26 African countries. It's the continent's largest crocodile species, with adult males typically reaching between 9.6 and 14.4 feet, 2.94 to 4.4 meters long, and weighing anywhere from 500 to 914 pounds, 225 to 414.5 kilograms. Even bigger specimens have been found, with some exceeding 16 feet, 4.9 meters in length, and weighing as much as 2,400 pounds, 1,089 kilograms. In addition to their sheer size, Nile crocodiles are known for being more aggressive toward humans than other crocodilians. They also often live in close proximity to people, which exacerbates tensions between the two species and partially explains the disturbing number of attacks that occur. Run-ins are frequent, and the species will feast on virtually anything that it thinks might satisfy its hunger, including people. The Nile crocodile's jaws are so powerful that even large animals like buffalo and wildebeests rarely manage to escape once they're under attack. Statistics are unreliable since it's likely that not all attacks get reported, but it's believed that Nile crocodiles kill up to 200 people per year. At the same time, the species has just as many reasons, if not more, to fear humans than we do to fear them. Between the 1940s and the 60s, people nearly hunted the Nile crocodile to extinction. Their numbers have restored in many places since protections were introduced. But human factors like pollution and habitat loss continue to affect the species' numbers. As far as the Nile crocodile is concerned, people are encroaching on its territory, and anything it decides to devour is fair game. 4. Southern cassowary. Native to northern Australia and Papua New Guinea, and also found in Indonesia, southern cassowaries have the capacity to tower over humans, standing at up to 6 feet 3 inches, 2 meters tall. On average, the species is a little under 6 feet, 1.8 meters tall, which still makes it taller than most people. Southern cassowaries are also the world's third heaviest bird, with adult females weighing up to 167 pounds, 76 kilograms, and males weighing around 121 pounds, 55 kilograms. They're too large to fly, but can leap up to 7 feet, 2.1 meters in the air, and can run at speeds of up to 30 miles per hour, 48.3 kilometers per hour. And they don't hesitate to defend themselves using their long, sharp claws when they feel threatened. In 2019, a 75-year-old Florida man named Marvin Hajos was killed by a southern cassowary at his cassowary farm near Alachua. A woman identifying herself as the victim's fiancé of 20 years told the Florida Times-Union that Hajos died doing what he loved, but she declined to comment further. According to law enforcement, the septuagenarian's death appeared to be a tragic accident. Alachua County Fire Rescue Deputy Chief Jeff Taylor said that from his understanding, Hajos fell near one of his cassowaries, and the bird proceeded to attack him. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission warns that cassowaries can be dangerous to humans, and that breeders and keepers should have substantial experience and the ability to keep their birds well caged. And while the agency requires permits to own cassowaries and show them in public, it does not regulate the breeding of the species. Luckily, most people probably have no desire to cross paths with a southern cassowary, let alone breed them. 3. Cape buffalo. Throughout sub-Saharan Africa, buffalo can be seen roaming together by the hundreds and sometimes even the thousands in massive herds. Of the 4 subspecies that exist, the Cape buffalo is the most common. It's also the largest, weighing up to 1,920 pounds, 870 kilograms. Nicknamed the Black Death, the Cape buffalo is one of the Big 5 species that are considered the most dangerous animals to hunt in Africa. It's notorious for its naturally grumpy demeanor and, in many cases, for being unpredictable and downright aggressive. And it isn't just their attitude that makes them terrifying. Cape buffalo are fast runners, reaching speeds of up to 37 miles per hour, 60 kilometers per hour. Trophy hunters often see these dangers as a challenge and consider it a major achievement to kill one. But even the most seasoned sportsmen are taking their risks by going after a Cape buffalo. One trophy hunter learned this the hard way in 2018, when he shot and killed a Cape buffalo and was gored from the side by another member of the animal's herd. Another fatal encounter happened in 2022, when a man, later identified as Benjamin de Bruin, shot at a Cape buffalo on a hunter's property in South Africa's Limpopo province. The buffalo charged at the man, while the farm owner shot a few more times at the buffalo. But he was ultimately unable to stop the attack. In the meantime, a photographer who was with the group climbed a tree and was thankfully unharmed. De Bruin died from his injuries, and the farm owner was taken to the hospital with injuries. Based on these stories, it seems as though the Cape buffalo typically only attack when provoked. But considering how massive and naturally aggressive they reportedly are, it's probably smart to just avoid them altogether when possible. 2. Giant huntsman spider. There are thousands of species in the Sparacidae family, also known as the huntsman spiders. On average, they have a body length of 1 inch, 2.5 centimeters, and a leg span of up to 5 inches, 12.7 centimeters. But the biggest species, known as the giant huntsman spider, is the world's largest spider by leg span, measuring up to a foot, 32.5 centimeters in diameter. Unlike many spiders, the giant huntsman doesn't catch its prey using webs. It hunts them down and ambushes them, using its strong mouth and potent venom to quickly snuff the life out of their target. The giant huntsman spider was discovered in Laos and is seldom spotted by humans owing to its preference for living in dark spaces. Other huntsman species are known to dwell in Asia, Africa, Australia, and South America. They've also been seen in Florida, where it's believed they traveled as an invasive species by sneaking into fruit shipments. People as far away as England have discovered them in bananas they bought at their local supermarket. But because they only thrive in warm tropical environments, huntsman spiders can only survive well enough to establish breeding populations in certain places. The good news is that while they're admittedly scary to look at, huntsman spiders aren't harmful to humans. Their venom and bites can be painful, but the symptoms are usually no worse than mild nausea and headaches. Many bite victims only experience localized pain and swelling. Another piece of good news is that the huntsman spiders will typically run away from a human if given the chance. There are exceptions, of course, including when females have young to protect and are extra territorial. And now for number 1. But if you want to hear more bizarre and crazy stories, stay tuned after the video for some more content. 1. Moray eel. There are around 200 species in the moray eel family, and they're found all over the world. Most prefer brackish habitats, but they're also known to occasionally venture into saltwater and freshwater environments. Generally speaking, moray eels are opportunistic carnivores. In other words, if an appealing meal is there for the taking, they don't hesitate to go after it. And while they primarily feed on crabs, octopuses, and smaller fish, they've been seen effortlessly devouring species that are known to be dangerous, including red lionfish. Included among the moray eel's few known predators are groupers, barracudas, and sea snakes. In most cases, though, moray eels are apex predators in their environment. Because they often prefer shallow coastal waters, it's not altogether unusual for moray eels to cross paths with humans. And while it's not in their custom to attack people, it's been known to happen from time to time, especially when a moray eel feels threatened. They're quick to become aggressive when disturbed and are perfectly capable of causing serious injury to a person with their strong jaws and sharp teeth. One vacationer named Kristen Porter experienced the pain firsthand in 2018 when she was snorkeling in Hawaii. Porter was visiting from Maryland when she received an excruciating bite in the waters off Honolulu. It bled profusely, and while she didn't catch a good glimpse of the animal that bit her, experts speculated that it was most likely a moray eel that she unintentionally provoked. These types of encounters are admittedly rare, but there's no way to guarantee that it won't happen if you dare to venture into the moray eel's habitat. 8. Miguel Enrique Salguero Olivares. A young college student named Faith Hedgpeth was beaten to death on September 7, 2012 in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. The 19-year-old was a member of Warren County's Halawa-Saponi tribal community, a tribe from the state's northeast Piedmont region. The murder left people utterly shaken. But over the years, the local police and other investigative teams released details regarding Faith's death to try and generate leads for solving the cold case. In 2016, detectives revealed that they'd finished a computer-generated photo composite of a suspect based on DNA evidence from the crime scene. That DNA was then cross-referenced with 229 different samples to rule out other suspects. And according to police, this led investigators to a 28-year-old man named Miguel Enrique Salguero Olivares. On September 16, 2021, 9 years after Faith was murdered, the killer was finally caught. Unfortunately, not too much was known about Salguero Olivares, which is why he wasn't initially a suspect in Faith's murder case. But once his DNA was linked, he was arrested and booked into Durham County Detention Center without bond. He's currently facing a first-degree murder charge. A motion was filed on September 28, 2021 by Durham County District Attorney Satana Debris' office, seeking a non-capital punishment for Salguero Olivares' alleged crimes. At the moment, it's unclear if the case will be tried in Superior Court. 7. Joseph Michael Simpson. The body of a young woman was discovered by a rancher and his son on December 16, 1995, in Wasatch County, Utah, during a hunting trip. The victim was naked and covered in blood, lying on top of rocks near the banks of the Provo River. The rancher immediately reported what they'd found. One of the first investigators to get there was Detective Todd Bonner, who saw that the woman's skull was crushed. He claimed it was possible that she may have received her injuries from one of the rocks found near her body. Several of the rocks were collected by crime scene technicians, just in case one of them was the murder weapon. A single pair of neatly folded socks were also located nearby, which was the only other piece of physical evidence near the scene. There was initially no clear indication as to who the young woman was or how she died. But an autopsy proved that the cause of death was blunt force trauma, and it was determined that she'd been killed 10 to 12 hours before her body was found. This placed the woman's time of death at 9 p.m. on Friday, December 15th. Unfortunately for investigators, the only clues to her identity were 3 tattoos, one of which was the name Chris written above her left breast, and a ring on her finger. Meanwhile, a young man from Salt Lake City named Chris was looking for his girlfriend. He reported to police that his partner Tracy Beslanowicz had gone for a walk to get some food at 2 a.m. on the day investigators believe she was killed. When Tracy never came back to the couple's motel room, Chris got worried and reported her missing. He identified Tracy after recognizing the victim's tattoos. But when the girl's father was called, police were shocked when he said Jane Doe was not his daughter, but most likely his stepdaughter, Crystal, a sex worker who apparently had a habit of using Tracy's identity. With a more accurate name for the victim, police searched diligently for the killer. But years passed and the case eventually went cold. It wasn't reopened until 2006, and still it took another 7 years for the murderer to be identified. In July 2013, a DNA test was done on 2 of the rocks found near Crystal's body, placing 46-year-old Joseph Michael Simpson at the scene of the crime. Simpson was apparently an ex-convict who happened to be out on parole when Crystal was killed. In the end, he was found guilty of murder after a jury spent 3 hours deliberating. On September 30th, 2016, he was sentenced to life behind bars. He's currently serving his time at the Central Utah Correctional Facility. 6. Raymond Samuels. Unfortunately, when the unnatural death of a homeless person happens, there's not much attention put into finding the killer. But this wasn't the case with 49-year-old Sarah Lynn Wineski, who in 2005 was found strangled to death in St. Petersburg, Florida. According to 10 News on May 21st of that year, screams were heard by witnesses at 11 p.m. But the woman's body wasn't discovered until the next afternoon. Wineski's remains were underneath a deck behind a Ronald McDonald house. DNA evidence was collected from the scene of the crime, but the case wasn't solved until November 2013. The DNA belonged to a 31-year-old man named Raymond Samuels, who'd been incarcerated in Ohio since 2006 for kidnapping and attempted murder. Investigators concluded that Samuels, who was also homeless, had been in the area when Wineski was murdered. And on January 24, 2017, he pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in connection to Wineski's case. 5. Hector Bencomo Hinojos. The Denver District Attorney's Office reached a significant benchmark in the summer of 2013 when they cracked Patricia Beard's 1981 cold case. The 32-year-old woman was found dead on the first floor of her apartment building. She was in her home, lying face up on her bed with an open robe. Her underwear was wrapped around her ankle and her slip was pushed up. There was also a used tampon nearby, suggesting that Beard had no plans to get intimate. When an autopsy was carried out, lacerations on the victim's left breast were found, and she had extensive hemorrhages and a bone fracture along her neck. The coroner ultimately concluded that she had been brutally strangled to death. The original officers working on the case noted that the killer probably made his way into the woman's apartment through a window. But even though the cause of death and point of entry were determined, the murderer's identity wasn't until July 2013. The Denver Police Department's cold case unit apparently found a post-mortem kit affiliated with Beard's case in August 2011, sparking a new effort to find her killer. Inside the kit was a vaginal swab that tested positive for sperm. And so, a detective ordered the sample to be tested for DNA. Then, on July 11, 2013, a DNA match was determined and Hector Bencomo Hinojos was taken into custody. The suspect was found easily by investigators at a prison in Loretto, Pennsylvania. He initially denied knowing the victim, but when the man's wife was questioned about his character, she said he was physically abusive. She also identified 6 different occasions where he came home with stolen goods, suggesting that he'd been involved in burglaries and similar crimes around the time Beard was killed. This evidence fit perfectly with the suspect's mode of entry into the victim's apartment, giving officers and prosecutors confidence that Hector Bencomo Hinojos was responsible for the murder. In the end, he pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and second-degree kidnapping in connection to the death of Patricia Beard. As a result, he was given 48 years behind bars. 4. Matthew John Beck. In 1998, a 10-year-old girl named Anna Palmer was killed in Salt Lake City, Utah. The case was cold for 11 years until finally getting solved in 2009. According to Anna's mother, Nancy Palmer, her daughter had many friends, and on the night of her disappearance, she'd asked if she could have a play date with one of them. Nancy didn't have a problem with this, but she told Anna to tell her when she'd be coming home. Then, that same night at about 7 p.m., Nancy found her daughter on the front porch of their house. She was cold and pale, prompting her mother to dial 911. Even though emergency responders came within minutes of the call, it was too late, and Anna was pronounced dead at the scene. The little girl had a hole in her throat and had been stabbed several times, on top of other physical trauma. The friend Anna visited was interviewed, and she told investigators that when they were walking to the corner of the street, they noticed a man following them. Apparently, this man was also seen by another 14-year-old who witnessed the girls walking home that day. Unfortunately, despite the information collected on the day of Anna's murder, there wasn't enough for investigators to work with, and the case went cold. But in 2009, Anna's death was re-examined. By then, forensic technology was available, and samples from the girls' fingerprints were sent to the lab to be tested for DNA. Miraculously, the sample identified the murder suspect, a man named Matthew John Beck, who was only 19 years old when Anna was killed. The man was found by detectives in an Idaho prison where he'd been serving time for sodomy. He was charged with the crime, and in 2011, Beck pleaded guilty to murder. For the gruesome slaying of 10-year-old Anna Palmer, Beck was sentenced to life in prison without parole. 3. Donna Perry, aka Douglas Perry. Within a 4-month period in 1990, 3 women, 38-year-old Kathy Brisbois, 34-year-old Nikki Lowe, and 26-year-old Yolanda Sapp, were shot to death in Spokane, Washington. The women's bodies were discarded like trash near the banks of the Spokane River. According to Deputy Prosecutor Sharon Headland, their remains were apparently either left completely naked by the killer or with their genitals and breasts exposed. All 3 of them had been involved in sex work, which may be the reason why the case wasn't solved until 22 years later. Until 2012, the women were believed to be victims of the serial killer Robert L. Yates. But when Donna Perry, formerly known as Douglas Perry, was convicted of a firearms possession charge in March of that year, her DNA was submitted into the National Crime Database. It turned out that she was a perfect match for the DNA collected from the women murdered in 1990. And so, in 2014, Donna, who completed her gender reassignment surgery in Thailand back in 2000, was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. On July 24, 2017, Donna was finally found guilty. As punishment, the trans woman was consequently handed 3 life sentences without the possibility of parole. 2. Hank Wise. A 19-year-old woman named Stacy Chory was killed in Georgia, and her murder wasn't solved until 2022. Stacy's body was found along the highway in Dade County, not too far away from the Alabama-Georgia border. For the past 33 years, not much was known about the case, including her identity and the identity of the killer. But now, decades later, Stacy's family is getting answers thanks to new genealogy DNA testing. Ken Farley, an FBI Atlanta special agent, broke the news to the woman's loved ones in September 2022. He released a statement to the public stating, "We are standing here today, almost 34 years later, to say we have finally identified Stacy Chory's killer. The man in question, Hank Wise, was the killer. Apparently, the man's DNA was matched to one of his living family members. When he was alive, Wise worked as a truck driver whose route went through the Southeast. His DNA was collected at the crime scene, and he had a criminal history in Florida, North Carolina, and Georgia, where Stacy was killed. Joe Montgomery, a special agent with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, personally spoke with the victim's mother to tell her they'd identified her daughter's killer. Detectives confirmed that Wise was no longer alive, but hopefully having a conclusion to the case will allow Stacy's family to heal and move on. 1. Donald Cox Jr. Fawn Cox was brutally strangled to death on July 26, 1989 in Kansas City, Missouri. The 16-year-old had been working at her amusement park job until 11 p.m. that night, and when she got home, she went straight to bed. Fawn's lifeless body was discovered by her little sister and mother the next morning, when they went to see why she wasn't turning off her alarm. According to the girl's family, they didn't hear anything out of the ordinary on the night of her murder, likely because the sound of the air conditioner drowned out all other noise. But Fawn's sister, Felisa, did remember the family's dog acting strange that evening, but they just thought it was because she was pregnant at the time. Sergeant Ben Caldwell from the Kansas City Police Department told KCTV News that to pick that home and that window to come in and leave undetected makes sense that the subject knew Fawn. And based on his statements, anyone who knew Fawn personally was a possible suspect. But even then, the case was unsolved for 31 years. But in the summer of 2020, new advanced DNA technology allowed investigators to test DNA collected at the crime scene. And after completing genealogy testing, Fawn's killer was determined to be Donald Cox Jr., the girl's own cousin. Unfortunately, justice would never fully be served, since Donald died under suspicious circumstances in 2006. Even though Fawn's family will never get to see her murderer go to jail, they're able to have some closure now that they know what happened all those years ago. Thanks for watching. Would you rather risk stepping on a small but highly venomous jellyfish, or try to sneak past a protective mother bear? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.